Hi, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, from wherever in the world you are joining us. A very warm welcome to career counselors, students, teachers, parents who have registered for another webinar in the series of conversations that we at OP General Global University have been having over the last couple of months. This is another edition of that webinar series that we are doing. And today, I'm very excited to be having this panel with me. I think this is, you would have got a lot of panelist discussions around COVID-19 and its effect on counseling over the last some months. But I think this is a fabulous panel because it has got career counselors from schools, it has got independent career counselors who are doing very well, and it has got a very big organization that is doing very well and revolutionizing the field of career counseling on a mass scale in India. So I am your host for today, Ankur Vohra, the head of outreach and international admissions at OP General Global University. We are a leading social science research-based institution located in Delhi NCR, India. My discussion for today is centered about, career counseling in the times that we live in. I always remember this line from, these are the best of times and these are the worst of times. Lewis Carroll said that. I think this is aptly applicable to the situation that we are in. These are the best of times for some students and these are worst of the times for some students. And we were just discussing this before I entered this webinar on how some students feel it's good, some students feel it's bad, some students even feel shortchanged the kind of efforts that they are doing, and now maybe they are not getting the rewards in return for the hard work that they did. So we will be taking up these discussions. I have a few slides that I would like to show you all to set the context for this conversation. And before we enter the panelists, let me show you some of my slides that I think are very relevant for this conversation that we are about to have. So we all know the effect of COVID-19 on school education, higher education has been phenomenal. We as a university and as an admissions director for admissions for a couple of schools at my university, I am seeing its effect in my own admission process, which has been overnight completely went a transformation to be an online process, and we are located in India. COVID-19 is definitely having a bigger impact also on the international education scene. We are seeing that there are a lot of travel restrictions. The visa processing is not happening. Many top destination universities are expected to offer only online programs for the coming year. And with the global economy coming to a halt, there is definitely a challenge in terms of finances. How do you get scholarships in a time when universities are cutting down on their budgets? The scholarship budgets are getting cut down. The personal finances of students in India, where a lot of our students depend on their family income to go abroad, and their fathers and mothers to fund their education, also are seeing a hit because of the COVID-19 and its impact on businesses, on job places. And we all hear a lot of negative news that comes out of the economic sector of any part of the world that you may be living in, be it in Africa or in India. So that's one of the challenge that we have. These are some of the challenges that I saw. And there are a lot of concerns also. There are some students who would like to pursue their education, who still have funds, who still want to go abroad. But then there are a lot of anxieties related about health and safety issues. How well are universities prepared to take care of health? How well is a country now, basically the destination country, what is the effect of corona on that part of the world? So there are a lot of premier destinations for Indian students specifically that they go to, the #1 destinations, and they are affected very badly by corona. That is again leading to a lot of anxiety on whether they should be going to that destination or not. The quality and worth of online learning, I think we all are teachers, we all know, been taking Zoom sessions for our students, and we know how tough it has been as teachers to adapt to online learning and online teaching. Adapting overnight to our pedagogy, our teaching curriculum. But it's equally tough on the students to adapt to online learning when they have so much, many of our students love brick and mortar teaching. Majority of them have learned that way. So what is the worth of online learning? And many of the students have also passed that comment. If the online teaching and thousands of dollars of education in online mode is worth it when you have Coursera and portals like that who can offer similar education experience from the same universities at practically free education. So what is the worth of online learning? That's a question, a very valid question for anybody spending big dollars on international education. Future job prospects, again, as I said, the economy is in tatters everywhere. There are a lot of stimulus packages that are coming out. Definitely in the developing world, like US is about to pass a stimulus package or has passed a stimulus package, and similarly is the case for Europe and other developing part of the world, developed part of the world. And as I mentioned, international travel and visa restrictions are majorly another problem. Although there are some destinations that are now opening up, I was reading that Canada is opening up their visa process, student visa process, and similarly Australia is planning something with regards to student visa specifically. There was also a plan of flying in student specific flights. So those kind of things are happening, but I don't know how much will it have an impact on the student decision making this year, particularly as all of us in Indian universities definitely are seeing an uptick of applications for students who were planning to go abroad and now have stayed back and are joining a lot of institutions that offer education at par with global institutions. But that's one aspect that I wanted to talk about from my own experience. And as I mentioned, funding for their education is a major concern. So what has this led to? This has led to a lot of confusion, anxiety, uncertainty. People are trying to make sense of it, of what is happening, what is the best way in which they can tackle this problem. My heart goes out to students and parents who have to take this decision in this time when there is practically no there is no previous experience of students doing something. So whatever they do this year, it will be a benchmark for at least coming 1 year, because I don't think COVID is going to go away in another 6 months to 8 months. So when the next batch comes in, the next decisions or university have to be taken, they will be also affected by this crisis. We can already see that there are a lot of cancellation of SAT exams. SAT test centers are not working. ACT test centers are not working. So there is a lot of anxiety. There is a lot of stress in the student community, and that is what I thought would make make up for a good conversation. And if we can guide our students and parents with regards to what is the best practices that we can follow. The counselors every day who deal with these students should be also in a position to learn from what are some of the leaders in the career counseling field doing. And that's why I'm very excited to have this panel today with us of school counselors and independent counselors. So that's my slides that I had. I would like to now, close my opening remarks and the context that we have here, and quickly introduce you to our panel. I'll start with my first panelist. But before I do that, yes, a quick reminder, we will be taking Q&A at the end of this session. So 30 minutes have been allotted for the Q&A section. If at any point of time anybody has any questions, please type it in the chat box and I will be taking it up. If you have, each panelist spend about 10 minutes on their own presentation and their own sharing of experiences. And if during their conversation you want to have some quick question, just type it down and I will be taking it up at the end of the conversation. So now quickly moving on to my first speaker, Ms. Sangeetha George. Sangeetha is the Associate Vice President for Guidance Solutions at Univariety. She has been in the field of career counseling for over 15 years and has worked in various organizations across the globe. She has conducted 500 plus workshops and seminars in the education and counseling space and helped many students find their true calling. She has previously worked as a career counselor with Kodaikanal International School and Dubai Women's College Higher Colleges of Technology. She has a master's in counseling from Trinity Western University, Canada, and a BA in psychology from Women's Christian College, India. It's a pleasure to have you here with us, Sangeetha. If you can go ahead and share your thoughts on the topic today.
Thank you so much, Ankur. Good afternoon, good morning to some of you. Welcome. I know Ankur pretty much read out everything that I have done over the past, I think, 25, 30 years. But I'm so happy to be on this panel with so many experienced counselors. And thank you so much, Ankur, for having me also. I'm just going to really quickly share my screen. He's very clearly told me I've got 10 minutes, so I better start my time now. Just let me know if you can see my screen, everyone.
Yes,
Ankur,
we can see
you
it,
see my
Sangeetha.
screen?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
You can. All right, so just really quickly, I think one of the biggest things that's come out, I've called my slide coping with COVID. And I think one of the biggest 21st century skill we've all had to learn is adaptability. We teach our kids about it. And I think each one of us, even on this panel or all of you who are listening, have understood how quickly we've had to adapt to the situation that we're going through. So just really quickly want to go through us as Univariety. So as you know, Ankur introduced me as the Associate Vice President for Guidance Solutions at Univariety, but I just always see myself as a career counselor, and that's what I'll always be. I don't think status matters that much. But what we've been, the three broad categories that we as a company have been focusing on over the past 3-4 months. First of all, with students. So I've called it just upskilling programs for students. So one of the biggest feedback that we got like end of March from parents were our kids have so much time on their hands. Yes, they do have online classes, but other than that, they're not doing pretty much anything else with their time. So what we did is we had a program that was helping students to work with their CVs or their profiles, which they need in order to apply to universities abroad and also apply to some universities like OP Jindal. They need to show like a really impressive profile or a CV. And so what we did is we started assisting students on the know-hows of how to put together a really impressive CV. Now, all of these programs that we were offering to them was online, so that we just thought, you know what, this is a really good way in which that they can use their time. A second thing that we also brought out was virtual internship programs. So we offered it to students, especially those in grade 8, 9, 10, confused about what they want to do and also use their time well. We thought, if you're in a place of confusion and you want to eliminate some of that confusion, then here's a virtual internship program that you can do. It was fantastic. We still run it. There are still students who do it and come back saying what a great experience they had, only because there are 18 different careers that they can choose from, and then we would allow them to take 2 or 3. It lasts for about 3 hours per career. There's an industry expert. I don't want to go into the details, but really happy to share any of that information, even with CV building or about virtual internships programs, US career counselors. If you feel like you need any support with regards to that, I'd be totally happy to help you. Second, what we did is we kind of shifted our focus of doing career counseling just only to students, because what we realized is that there were parents that were fretting more than students, and I'm sure my panelists agree with me. So what we did is we came out with a form called the PACE form, which is a parent aspirations, concerns and expectations form, and we sent it out to all. So we work with about 85,000 parents, and we sent it out to different schools, to different parents, and the response has been overwhelming. Just the amount of them that are writing back saying we need help, and one of the biggest observations that I have seen is that they want clarity with regards to which college to go to, which country, especially during this time. They're wondering, is it still safe to send their children abroad, things like that. That's been one of the most popular kind of dialogues that my counselors have been having with parents. So what this form enabled a parent to do was to book a session with one of our counselors, and we've had at least on a daily basis about 100 parents that get in touch with us saying, please talk to us, kind of thing. So it's been fantastic, just the opportunity that we've had to be able to reach out even to parents, and then have, because the beautiful part is, I'm not sure if students agree with this that much, but it's been great to have both parents and students at home and have a counseling session with everyone together. So that's been really fulfilling for us. Third, what we did is we came out with something over the past 3-4 months, and we just stopped it at the beginning of this month, was a weekly update. Now, the genesis of this weekly update was that I had career counselors who were working in schools reach out to me saying, hey, Sang, have you heard about what's happening? What are the updates on some of these things? And so I thought, you know what, it's a great idea to come out with a weekly update that we can send to all our career counselor friends to support them with regards to what's happening with entrance exams, what's happening with the latest admission processes, and any special news that there might be with regards to online courses that are free. We've seen so many of those come out in the past couple of months. So we were bringing out a weekly update that we were sending out to all school counselors. So we tried to cater to students, to parents, and to counselors. And my last point really is just a piece of advice to everybody. I think first of all, to students, I know it's super frustrating to be sitting at home all day and to be doing your classes from home every day. But you know what? Make use of this time. Of course, stay safe. But if there's an extra project that you need to work on, or if there's a new initiative that you can start from the confines of your home, now would be the time to do it. Work on your profile, work on your SAT. There's so much time that's been given to you. Parents, we understand you, we empathize with you, we know what you're going through. I know it doesn't make sense for me to say stay calm, but really that's what it is about. We're here to support you, but you need to be reaching out to us. You need to be taking that initiative to each one of us, even on this panel. Reach out to any one of us and we'd be happy to help you. And lastly, my fellow counselors, I know what each one of us is going through, and more so than ever, I feel like we need to support each other and we need to stay connected. Parents are worried, students are stressed out, but I think it's important that we continue to stay updated. I know it's a humongous task from our side, but I think it's very, very important to stay updated and to stay positive. That's it from me, Ankur.
Thank you so much, Sangeetha. That was really, really insightful things that you mentioned about motivation and staying calm. I think we all can do with a bit of calm in our lives, but you know, it's just that the situation is like that. You know, when I walk out of this room, then I probably, you know, there are a lot of things happening that do not let me be calm. But yes, so thank you so much, Sangeetha. Now let's moving on to the next presenter. Quickly, I just want to remind my audience that the questions are on. Any question to Sangeetha, any feedback, any comment to what she said, you are welcome to type it in the chat box, and I will be taking it up with Sangeetha shortly. Let me make my next presenter right. So yes, so my next presenter is Mr. Arjun Seth. Arjun is the founder of Edbrand. Arjun specializes in mentoring high school and college students. The primary objective of Edbrand is to mentor students through the college application process, giving active, tailored feedback, ensuring that students present their best personal brand. The secondary objective of Edbrand is to supplement the students' high school curriculum to ensure they are not only prepared to handle the intellectual rigor of college, but also to address local issues in their community. They do this through leading workshops, providing student mentorship for projects, and exposing students to exciting new research and technologies. Their website is www.edbrand.com. Their latest initiative is the launch of virtual College Edge Fair, and you can find the details of how you can participate in that fair on www.collegefair.live for more details. It's a pleasure to have you here, Arjun, with us. Please go ahead and share your thoughts on the topic.
Sure. Thanks, Ankur, and thanks, Sangeetha. Actually, you've covered most of the COVID-related stuff, and you know, all of us are, to be honest, quite tired of this whole COVID situation. But I'm kind of circling back and zooming out a little bit. And if you look at the topic today, I'm going to focus on the second part, which is sharing best practices and experiences. I know it's a mixed audience. You have school counselors, you have other counselors, and also parents and students. So welcome, everyone. I hope in the next 10 minutes I can share my 2 bits. Personally, I felt that, this idea of COVID and it's kind of locking down people and students in particular and parents being anxious is something universal. Everyone's sort of kind of getting used to the idea, but denying that they're getting used to the idea. So let's also clear the air on that. But I feel that the kids who crave challenge and want to do something about their lives or their learning, they are reaching out to counselors like us and sort of going ahead with what they had planned initially. So there is confusion, but also there is hope. And the hope that I see most is in the eyes of our students, though virtually now, to see that they continue to excite us by doing interesting things. So looking at my journey, I feel the experiences of having meaningful, engaging one-on-one conversations is what got me going, and it still does after 2 decades of helping students. And when I say helping, it's more, sometimes you learn so much. These kids graduating from high school or even middle school who are now reaching out and meeting us are wired so differently, and each conversation that we have is a unique experience. At the same time, our whole idea, and these images on the screen is our current office. So I'm currently in the office. There is no student here at the moment, but we want to welcome them back soon. So the idea of creating a virtual space which is friendly, inviting, is in sync with our whole objective of having those meaningful conversations so that the students are inspired to fulfill what challenges that they set out to do. And if there are students listening, I would say 3 things you should sort of focus on is one, of course, is to figure out what ideas excite you in the world and what do you want to do about those ideas. So number 2 is figure out how do you want to build a community around that idea, and start early. I think it's just important to start in middle school or high school, not to think of college admissions, but whatever silly things that you do, you still want to do that. You want to let the world know. And the third is how do you really communicate those ideas? So I'll repeat again, focus on 3 steps. One is be passionate about ideas that you care about. It could be even anything. That's a silly Lego set that you worked with when you were in, say, grade 1, or even a book review website that you wanted to launch, but no one would want to really read, but that's fine too. How do you then engage the community around those ideas? And the third is communicate your voice, sort of find platforms where you can talk about things, write about things, and get going. So with that, I'll just end the first part of my best practices. I think it's kind of a short summary of what we do at Edbrand with our students. But the second, the idea that we worked on was to help counselors, students, families connect on a virtual platform. I'm not so used to this GoToMeeting platform, but I'm going to switch our screen. And I just wanted to announce this today. This was launched yesterday. And thanks, Ankur, for letting us do this here. I know school counselors would be very interested in knowing more about this, so we can take this conversation offline. And our parents and students attending will definitely gain from this. Over the past years, we've helped our students meet admissions officers at our office, which is designed in a way to have these interesting sessions. So we thought that starting August, since most colleges will not be able to visit, or actually all will not be able to visit our office, we wanted to launch something. And luckily, we found an interesting partner who was also a past student of Edbrand, and she is an expert in augmented reality, virtual reality, mixed reality, and she came up with this whole idea of conferences online. So this is what it is. It's called collegefair.live, and college is spelled as COLLEDGE. It's a 6-hour virtual exhibition. You can read more about it on our website. What counselors from universities would get is a booth where they can meet with students and parents. You will also have an auditorium space where everyone who's attending can listen or even send in proposals for speaking. And of course, there's a networking zone for independent counselors and organizations to meet with university reps or other people. So this is the business side of the networking zone, is the only business area. The rest of the areas are open to families and students. So with that, I just want to welcome all of you to be part of this. There is a website link which Ankur can share, and we can be in touch. And it's absolutely free. So just wanted to let you know that it's a totally free initiative. There will be a few sponsors, etc., but for students, parents, and for visiting high school counselors, it's a totally free experience. So thanks, Ankur, and looking forward to listening to the rest.
Thank you, Arjun. Thank you so much for that insightful 3-step process that you told us of ideas that you are passionate about, engaging with a larger audience and communicating your idea. I think that that's something that I also find really interesting, and I've noted down it in my diary. So thank you so much for sharing that thing with us. Uh, Audience, just a general reminder, the questions can be written in the question box. There are a couple of questions that I see there are already, but I will encourage all to put in your questions as soon as you get them in your mind. So moving on to my next speaker, I have with me uh, Nirmal Agarwal. Nirmal Agarwal is an economics graduate from Stanford University and a renowned educationist, having worked with more than 200 schools and thousands of students over the years. Nirmal is the founder of Cognix Knowledge Group, which is involved in various educational initiatives. More than anything else, he is passionate about working with young students to help them realize their dreams and aspirations. He is a genuine human being who parents can rely upon. He loves to personally coach and counsel students through their career, college, and life journey. It's a pleasure to have you here with us, Nirmal. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you so much for putting this panel together. And I'm just really privileged and blessed to be in the same room, though virtually, with all these people that I've been aspiring to be with and to be like. So let me just share my screen. There we go. Okay, so I've not really put anything together as such on points and pointers, etc. What I want to talk about today is to touch upon a few of the things that my previous panelists have talked about, and also to share what we have seen are the trends amongst students, amongst parents, what practices we are seeing being adopted by counselors across the country and that we've done as a team, and also some tips that we can give to students and parents who are with us now, and also to counselors who might be able to percolate these onwards to other students in their cohort of students that they have. So first of all, we talk about the new normal, but for me, the bigger question is, what is the new normal, or is there a new normal? Has anything really changed about the way we do work, about the way or what we do? As a counselor, what are the things that we were supposed to be doing in the first place? We were there for the mental and emotional well-being of the child, of the student. We were there for making sure their career aspirations were met, their college dreams were met, understanding what their academic choices were, etc., helping them with their mental development, their personal development. So I don't think any of that has changed, to be honest. Yes, the way we approach things may have changed. We might be talking more virtually than anything else, but just because everything is so different doesn't mean anything really has changed in the way we approach our work. We might have different methods of doing it. We might have to do more. We might have to be there more, and we might be getting called at all odd hours. And I do that. I mean, my students are all nocturnal animals, and they all wake up at 9 p.m. I think, and they start thinking, okay, where can I get Nirmal sir? Where can I get Nirmal? Can I get him on a call? Can I WhatsApp him? And if I respond, immediately get a call back. Oh, you're up. So it's a different way of doing things maybe, but it's just made it so much more easier for me and my team to reach out to everyone. And I love what Sangeetha had mentioned, that it's so good to have parents as part of the conversation in this situation, because they're all in the same house right now. So it's very clear that, okay, I want to meet all three of you, then please do come on a Zoom screen with me and we'll all have a conversation together. Earlier, it was always very difficult to find out when a parent is available, when a student is available, and when they all come to my office and talk. So people have started adapting to this new normal, as if we can call it that, and they know that it doesn't have to be a physical space. And this was going to happen anyways. I really believe that what COVID has done is just brought forward the future. It would have happened in 8 years, 10 years down the line. It has just enabled all of us to adapt very quickly and to embrace this new future that we were going to have to go to anyways in the future. So, we are really blessed that yes, parents and students over the last few months have started adapting to it more easily. And that's also reflected in the trends. If we talk about one of the things that Ankur, you wanted us to talk about was the trends that we are seeing. So obviously we are seeing a lot more people becoming more open-minded. And I think Arjun also alluded to the fact that people are just getting used to that and they're accepting this more easily. So in March and April, when we were having these conversations with our students who were looking at going abroad to the US, to UK, they were like, no, we don't want to do online courses. Why pay so much money and do an online course? I'd rather go to Coursera, go to edX and do these courses for free. I want to take a gap year. So we had a lot more conversations around that, and that's happening even now. Even now, two of my students heard back this morning from Toronto and Waterloo, offering them admission for the August-September intake. This is late in July that we are still having conversations about which colleges you should be going to. So having said that, I think it's just that that whole timeline for counselors like us have shifted. We might have been done with this kind of work with a previous batch by May this year, that, okay, you've decided which college you're going to, this is the visa process, let me help you and guide you through the settling in process, talk about what courses you should be selecting. And here we are in the end of July, still talking about, should I go to college outside India? Should I stay in India? Should I do online courses? Should I go for a college that has blended learning? Should I go to a college which is allowing me to go physical completely? The ICE came out, IC, which is the American Customs and Immigration Department, came out with a new, I mean, it was already there, but they just made it more clear that new students who are going to do online classes completely cannot come to the US right now. And that just queers up the pitch a bit, because these people were not even going to the US in the first place right now. They would have done online courses from India. But just the fact that now they're being told you can't come has scared parents again. So all morning I've been getting calls. All night I was getting messages that what is this new thing? It's not a new thing. So it's just all these conversations that are taking place around something that maybe even we are not prepared to tackle. We are not astrologers, we are not soothsayers, and we don't really know what's going to happen. And it's such a situation, it's an ever evolving situation. And what counselors need to do in this situation is to be very agile, is to be very, very clear about what's happening, to be very informed and be very approachable. And my whole team, myself included, we have made it a point that we are there no matter what the situation is, to have that conversation with our parents and with the student. So in terms of what we do, emotional well-being, mental well-being, personal development, career development, those things have not really changed, have they? It is just that we are now being able to focus our energy on not just fighting what is old, but on building a new normal for us. So we as counselors have to be ready for this. What are the conversations we're having right now? And we're actually inviting and telling all our students to look at plan Bs and plan Cs. Do not depend on one thing. We don't know when the situation may change. Yes, there are natural factors in place and they are changing. As added to it are the man-made factors, with noises coming out of people here and there without really thinking through. And there are so many man-made factors which are again making it difficult for you to understand what to do. So we cannot fight that. We can only control what's in our sphere of influence. And parents and students have to understand that. And as counselors, we have to make them understand that let's be there within our sphere of influence. Let's control our reactions. Let us not worry about what we cannot control, nature, other people who we cannot control. But let's try to make sure that we are prepared for any eventuality. So a lot of our students have looked at a plan B, which could be another country. We're having a lot of conversations around, okay, I had got a seat booked in USA, but should I look at some other country that I can keep as a backup, just in case US is not safe anymore? The way the cases are rising in USA, and maybe they'll stop flights, or I don't want to go, my parents don't want me to go to the USA, or there's a grandfather or grandmother in the house who says, "Nahi beta, you don't have to go at all." So can I look at some other place? So yes, the plan B comes in. Can it be overseas like UK or Europe and maybe Singapore and Australia? Yes. Or a plan C, and that plan B and C could change. That can we look at India? So I know many universities, including yours, Ankur, which have been coming up with later admission deadlines, because yes, the board results have come out just now, so you had to wait. But you're also aware that many students will be looking at Indian options now, that they do not really have the foreign options that easily available or that comfortable for them any longer. So yes, look at a plan B, plan C, etc., that you can take forward. There's a big popularity rise in other countries. I know USA is certainly losing its sheen. The American dream is no longer the American dream, and many people are looking at that with the noises surrounding H1B. And that's another conversation we're having, that how does it affect my ability to work? So we just have to be very agile in terms of understanding what the information is, how the situation is changing on sometimes a day-to-day basis. So I love the fact that Sangeetha, your team is coming out with this new news updates and weekly updates, and we try to do that with our students as well, because there's a lot of noise around any information that goes out. There's a lot of clutter. When you look at media, everyone is interpreting a circular in their own way. So if you can go to the depth of it and explain to the student, because I know my students, we know our students best. I know what their problems are, what their thought processes are. So rather than hearing something from the media, I would rather be the one who's reaching out to them and explaining what this situation means, what this new ICE circular means for you, what does opening up of Australia mean for you, etc. So I want to be the one, because I know their situation, to explain them. And that is where the conversations come in handy also. Many of them are group conversations over Zoom calls, and a few obviously are going to be one-to-one conversations. Again, as some of my panelists have said, each situation is unique, and we really have to reach out to students in their unique way. Many students, we've noticed, we're looking at trends, so many students are also reevaluating career options. They might have looked at a particular career, and I get these calls quite often that, should I look at something else? What do you think are careers for the future? Should I look at healthcare? Should I look at something else? Should I look at technology? By all means, yes. But again, the answer comes back to that rudimentary reason we are doing counseling anyways, that should you look at something to do in your life that interests you, or do you want to go with trends in life? Because what may be a trend today will not be a trend 20 years from now. So you'd rather be prepared for any eventuality by giving yourself the softer skills that prepare you to face anything you want. When I was growing up, and when most of us were growing up, we didn't even know half the careers that exist today. So how do we prepare for a career that we don't even know exists? Is by making sure that we are adapting and they are inculcating those soft skills that we need. So have those conversations, make sure the students and parents are aware of what it means to navigate this situation, to find the trends, etc. And what are the best practices? What can we do as counselors to take forward this situation with them? How can we help them navigate it? I think the best skill we can have, and as counselors, I think we're inherently born with that skill. That's why we are counselors in the first place, is to just listen. Many people love to talk. They love the sound of their own voice. I do as well. It's difficult to shut me up sometimes. My wife always tells me that. But please, please, we have to listen, because there's always some word, something you can glean by just being a good listener. And then advice based upon what we are feeling that situation is for that family. And each advice can be very unique. Going forward, what I would suggest all of us to do, and I don't want to take a lot of time over here. That's why you'll see the slides are not heavy in terms of advice, or do this and do that. It's just that we want it to be a free-flowing conversation and open it up for questions later on. So the best thing to do, and Sangeetha, thank you for pointing that out, is adapt. We have to learn to adapt and adopt to every situation. We have to be very agile, as I already mentioned. We have to be very resilient. And as students, as parents, they have to be resilient to everything. And I'm reminded, I just want to share it with everyone, of a book by Thomas Friedman called The World is Flat. A lot of you might have read this a few years ago when it was popular. In fact, Thomas Friedman himself now doubts that the world is flat anymore, with so much insular nature happening around economies all over. But one of the things that stood out in that book for me was he talks about 4 kinds of workers that are there in the world. The first one is the special worker. These are the really talented people, like a Sachin Tendulkar in India, or a Tiger Woods in golf, or a Roger Federer, who are so special, who are 1 in a million, who are 1 in millions, who are going to do well no matter what, because their talent, their ability is such that they can do it. The second type of worker are the specialized workers, who have a particular skill that you require no matter where you are. That skill cannot go out. These could be the doctors, they could be the lawyers, the healthcare workers in this situation that are being called the COVID warriors. So these skills are going to be required no matter where we are and how the future changes, how flat the world is or how insular the world is. The skills that you bring to the table with you being a lawyer or doctor is going to remain as such. So you can be special, you can be specialized. The third kind of workers he talks about are anchored. So these are workers who are anchored in one place, like a barber, like a security guard. We cannot really outsource the work of a barber to some other country or to an online virtual space. I'm giving myself haircuts. My students are surprised that my hair is exactly the same size for the last 4 months, while they're coming to my session with ponytails and hair all over the place, is because I'm becoming my own barber. But I would rather go to my neighborhood Italian saloon, as we call it in India, or the barber, and get that proper haircut done. You can't see the back of my hair right now. You'll understand how bad I am at giving myself haircuts. So you got to be anchored, and if you're anchored, you will not lose that job. You will always be relevant. But most of us, including a lot of us in this panel, are not special. We are not specialized, and we are not anchored. So if we are neither of these things, of all these three, we have to be adaptable. And that is the key skill that I want you as counselors and for parents and students over here to take forward. That no matter what the situation is, as the famous saying goes, this too shall pass. Everything is going to come to an end and things will change. But the only thing, the only quality you have that can help you navigate this continuous change is the fact that you're adaptable, you're agile, and you're resilient. So please look out for the situations where you can change, where you can adapt to the new normal, as we call it now, or create a new normal for yourself. Remember that you cannot control that things outside of your sphere of influence. And life happens outside of that comfort zone. There's a good graphic I read somewhere where they drew a circle and they wrote comfort zone over there, and outside they said life happens here. So your life will happen outside the comfort zone, and that's what we're all faced with. We're all in the same boat. Whether it's a student who's a topper in school or who's a bottom ranker, we're all navigating this together. So please adapt, please be agile, and be resilient. Thank you, and we are available for answering questions.
Yeah, thank you so much, Nirmal. That was a wonderful presentation. Even though you had 3 slides, the content you had was awesome. I really loved listening to you, and it went over 14 minutes, and I didn't notice that. So
I'm sorry.
So thank you so much. Thank you so much. I quickly moving on to my next speaker. We have Nitina Dua. Let me introduce her. Yes, so Nitina Dua is the head of Department and Career Guidance Center at Shiv School, Noida. She is a master's in business management and a graduate of Bachelor of Arts. Nitina has completed a postgraduate diploma in guidance and counseling by the Institute of Counselors Training and Research Center, headed by Dr. V.S. Ravindran. She has also done Global Career Counselor Certification course from UCLA. She is a committee member of the IC3 and also on the advisory board of ICAE. During the past 8 years in education, she has an abiding interest and belief in cross-cultural setting of learning. She forged inter-school relationships nationally and internationally with schools in Singapore, US, and Europe. It's a pleasure to have you here with us, Nitina. Please go ahead and share your thoughts with us.
Thank you very much, Ankur, and thank you very much, all of you. It's been such a delight to hear to all my friends, who've been sharing such enriching thoughts. I would like to share my screen, and I think
you can see your screen now. You will have to open your presentation.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Ankur. Is it?
We can see you. Yeah, we can see it now.
Perfect. So I just thought, let me. So good afternoon, good morning, wherever everybody is, and I thought let me start with something that we all can really question, because what as Nirmal said, it is so important to question what is normal, right? So I read this quote somewhere that whatever you decide, right, make sure it makes you happy. So no matter wherever you're thinking of going and how you're guiding your students into what they have to do, ensure that the happiness quotient doesn't seem to go away from whatever they are. Currently, we're all talking about pandemic and the situation that we are in, but what would really work for all of us are conversations, and great conversations of quality, and giving them direction to reach and identify what are their own interests. So of course we talk about exploration and discovery, and this is just the right time where we are together in it, and we can really have those set of conversations to direct our students into what do they want to truly explore about. Research and prepare. The minute you step into high school, and I talk from a point of a college counselor, and I interact with a lot of high school students. Indian students specifically do not truly understand the meaning of research. So how are you defining research for them? And this is exactly the right time to do that with them. As my colleagues and friends have already shared that, what as counselors we were supposed to do, we are doing it. Our timelines would have shifted. And I think we are getting more of our parents as well as students deeply involved, because they understand that the exit from school is so critical now, right? The kind of change the world has seen over the last 1 year is actually the kind of change we have not seen in the past decade. And as survey and data says that 35% of the time of our life we spend on working, and that's like a lot of time of our life goes into that. And the current generation data also says they are going to switch 7 careers. When I talk about 7 careers, that means as educators, as counselors, as parents, we really need to focus on what are we teaching our students, and what are leaders in the industry recognizing today. What we are teaching our students are transferable skills that they would be able to adopt with the changing times and get into adaptability, agility. But also the leaders of the industry, what are they truly recognizing? They're recognizing resilience as a very, very important aspect, right? So I thought it would be a very good idea to talk about all these things. Ankur, I'm not able to go to my next slide.
You can just, this is on your laptop. Yeah, we can see the next.
Yeah, perfect. Yes.
Slide now.
So great. So I know our audience today is counselors. Our audience today are parents. Our audience today are also students. And I just thought that how can we look at student progression since the past 4 months? I know this is a lot of data, but I would just like to tell you, if you're a student of grade 9, or if you're a parent of a student of grade 9, or if you're a counselor who's kind of just figuring out of a student who's just entered high school, give them certain videos about the new age careers that are coming up, right? You can look at some aptitude tests, some online assessments for them, because though they are indicative and you would have to know your child better, but because right now you're not physically in school, so you really don't know. So an aptitude test would also give you a certain conversation to start with your student who's just come into high school, right? Start looking at building their portfolios. Have conversations with them to say that what are you currently doing? What are you involved in? There are so many online courses that are currently here. What are your areas of interest? Building on those conversations, you can actually give them a certain direction, make them understand the important things that they could look at closely at this point in time. Very important aspect, I as a counselor truly believe in, your logical reasoning and aptitude. A lot of colleges have become test optional, but when we look at Indian universities, which have suddenly got an upsurge into their applications, specifically this year, and when we look at even next year, a lot of students who are thinking of going abroad will make a plan A, and the target and safe colleges could have options in India, right? When I say that, it's a great idea to tell your students right from grade 9 to start building on logical reasoning and aptitude, because those are the set of questions that come in their probably a university aptitude test, and also it will help them prepare for the SATs, right, which they'll be taking in grade 11. Grade 10, if your student is in grade 10, look at subject choices, start having conversation. If parents are listening to me, it's a good idea in grade 10 to see that what is the area in the sciences my child is really interested in, or what is the area in social sciences my child is really interested in, and how can I roadmap? Are there courses of that specific interest that I could channelize my child into, right? And connect with your college counselor to have one-on-one counseling sessions with you as well as the student. If you're in grade 11, it's your age to eliminate your choices. You had your exposure in 9th and 10th. Look at subject-based workshops. There are such beautiful programs outside universities are conducting right now. As was mentioned by my other friends on the panel today, that there are so many seminars. There's an overload of webinars. What we did at Nadar School, which has been very interesting for us, is we've done a virtual resume writing workshop. Our students have a resume ready. We ensure that nothing changes for our student, even if the student is sitting at home right now. Yeah, and we did virtual interviews, because if you look at this year, a lot of interviews are only going to happen online. So how you also have to teach your own set of students what is expected out of a virtual interview, and I think it would be a great idea to start something like that. All our students of grade 11 also did virtual internships. Another great idea for your students to be engaged in. and see how the dynamics of the workplace is changing, that you're not physically present there, but you're doing, projects. And, I would introduce a term called gig economy here, which is also a word for the future, where children would categorically not be looking at 9 to 5, but we would be looking at options where they could freelance, they could do some project work, and give their expertise into different fields. So again, I come back to saying that skills are very, very important. And to recognize those skills, you have to understand your child and your student very, very well. Look at doing a SWOT analysis with them online. You can look at understanding their strengths, figuring out their weaknesses, what kind of opportunities as a counselor you can look at, and what threats do your students feel at this point in time. And how, as a counselor, you're able to convert those threats into opportunities for your students. For an educator, the biggest delight is that you keep pushing the ceiling upwards, but also how are you raising the floor? So all these components become a very, very important aspect of our conversations with our parents and students. Grade 12 is exit, and the current batch of grade 12, I would just say there's shifting of timelines. Of course, I know you're anxious. I know counselors are anxious. I know parents, educators, but let me tell you, everything will happen with its own time and course of time. If we are planning well, I'm sure universities are also really planning well. I could see so many Indian universities doing online testing for the first time, and proctored tests online, which is brilliant. So there is just so much of movement happening in the landscape of undergrad education, and I'm so happy that as a counselor, and we have had the opportunity to be a part of that change. SOP writing, making a long list, short list, college, telling your students to write a college essay. I think just engage, connect. Your students need the hand-holding at this time more than anything else. So just hand-hold them, give them a space which is non-threatening, tell them to build skills which are transferable, so that they could really, really have couple of takeaways, and they would remember this time and remember you as a counselor, parent, or an educator to say that, yes, I had people to support me when I felt life wasn't all that easy. But let me tell you, just view life at this time as a great opportunity and pick up a hobby, build a skill. So I tried to put a few things, that was more for counselors and educators. I thought if we have students who are listening to me and if we have parents, it will be a good idea to also, everybody has a role to play. And I keep telling my students that you're on the driver's seat. You need to know how much you need to accelerate and what time do you need to put a brake. No matter you have the support system around you as counselors, parents to handhold you, to help you. But until you won't know which direction you want to lead your car into, nobody can help you. So self-help is the best help. Explore the different career domains. Skill development, profile building. What better time than this? Online courses, resume building. There are so many activities that you can look at engaging yourself in. If you haven't figured out your area of interest, do it right now. Yeah. Balancing academics and extracurricular. I completely understand when we look at online classes. It's fatigue, it's not many things. So look at extracurricular activities. How are we going to do a fine balance between the two? As Nirmal just pointed out, that whenever a news comes in, we are all kind of figuring out, different connotations of what is written there. So it's good idea to read, and update yourself well. Cross connect, check. What are other people saying about it? What is it about? Reach out to the experts to have those conversations. Attend webinar, TED Talks. TED Talks will help you prepare for your personal interviews. When you have your personal interviews, you cannot prepare for it overnight. You need to be on a journey to say that I'm looking at that particular course. What is the kind of research that's been happening around it? This is just a good time to get yourself involved into those TED Talks. Role of parents. Parents, you have to be on board with the educators to ensure that your child's exit from school is meaningfully planned. Understanding options for higher education and careers. Lots is changing. As I mentioned, if your child is looking at pursuing a course at the undergrad, could not be, your child, what he studies could be relatively not close to anything that he or she wishes to pursue 6 or 7 years from now, right? So looking and focusing on academics, we also need to have the vision and the purpose and the future in mind completely. Orientation of subjects, when I look at undergrad choices that students are looking at, when I look at any university abroad or the newish private universities in the country, every university's course transaction of curriculum is very different. So it's good for your children to get into research, and you also get into that research with the student, your own child, to see that, oh, this particular university offers this course and the curriculum course content looks interesting. They have an exchange program, they have an internship, and they have an incubator lab. So you could look at a lot many other things. Understanding new age careers and non-mainstream career pathways. Right? So there are so many things that are coming up. There is so much of overload of information. Go ahead, read about it. Come back to the college counselor for an advice to see, can I look at these things? Will it connect with what I'm studying right now? Or what kind of skills would I need to upgrade myself to get there? And finally, observing your child and having healthy conversations. Nothing in life is more fulfilling to spend some time having meaningful conversations with your own child, giving them a space which also relaxes them mentally and emotionally, and then with a clear vision and purpose to look at what the way forward looks like for them. And yes, as we say, we are all together here and always ready to support in whatever our students are taking forward as a journey. That was from my end. We'll be very happy to answer questions if you have any. Over to you, Ankur.
Thank you, Nitina, for that wonderful and insightful session. Really loved it. Pleasure to have you here with us. Now, quickly moving on to our last speaker for the day. But yeah, quick announcement. The questions should be written in the chat box. We are just 10 minutes away from the question and answer round. And I love for you to have many questions for this wonderful panel that we have today. I will now quickly give the presenter right to my next speaker. Okay, so my next speaker is my dear friend and a career counselor at African Leadership Academy in Johannesburg, South Africa, Mashresha Esayas, if I pronounce it right. Apologies upfront. So Mashresha is an educator committed to the betterment of high-achieving low-income students' access to quality education. She is a dedicated resource and is working incredibly hard to ensure that students are provided with endless possibilities that the world has to offer. She is determined to work in an environment that disrupts the notion that Africa is only a place of consumption of education and not creation. Basing curriculums on African values, she believes will allow students to explore our indigenous but ignored knowledge in all areas of the discipline. It's a pleasure, Mashresha, and having been at your school last year, same time, I am your biggest fan of ALA, and I try to support ALA in whichever ways I can. So it's a pleasure to have you here. Thank you so much for taking time out early morning in winters in Johannesburg. So appreciate it. Please go ahead.
Thank you so much, Ankur. It's been an absolute privilege to be here and be part of the ongoing conversation, especially focusing on how we are as counselors are moving forward concerning what is happening in the world right now. So I want to tell you a little bit about the African Leadership Academy, just for those who may not know. So the African Leadership Academy is a leadership institution that has 40 countries represented in our student body. So the curriculum that we follow is A levels, and then we also have what we call core curriculums, which are African studies, entrepreneurial leadership, writing and rhetoric. So we are located in Johannesburg, South Africa, and we also try to instill these values that you see on the screen here: integrity, curiosity, humility, compassion, diversity, and excellence. Those are our core values that we try to instill in our students. And I want to say that I feel like most of the ideas have been covered already from the wonderful panelists that we see here today. But I just want to tell you a little bit about how we have been dealing with COVID-19. So we are a boarding school, so most of our students are still on campus, and because they live and study on campus, so they haven't been able to go home. So what our institution did was actually we did the lockdown before the South African government actually did the lockdown. So our students have been on lockdown for the past 4 months. What this meant was there was a lot of changes in how they were basically interacting with each other. So I want to focus a little bit about the mental health and mental well-being of our students. So we've been really proactive in addressing those issues, and we have on-site counselor residents, a residential counselor that is always available for students, and having continued conversations with our students, ensuring that they are mentally healthy and are able and to continue their studies. So how have we, as the University Guidance Department, carried on ensuring that our content is delivered to our students? So we were able to go 100% virtual for all of our classes, and we ensured that our students finished their A-levels exams and they finished their final exams, and we had a virtual graduation, and this was happening all during when they were in complete isolation and quarantine. So this was a lot of intense moment for the students. But for us, we decided, because we have them here over the summer, we were going to do a university guidance summer program. And we wanted to use this time to completely and utterly dive into what we can offer to the students, right? So this means that we cover in depth. It is almost like they're taking a physics class or a chemistry class, right? So we have curriculums, we have lesson plans, and we're ensuring that every day our students are engaged for this UG summer program, which is going to last for a month. They're engaged in the topics of application strategy. So we understand now that the US may not be, in the past, the most popular destination for our students is the US, but that may not be a viable option anymore. So how do you strategize in your application, right? So you as a student, you have to look at what are my options, and it's not just the US that is going to be a destination, but you can look into Europe, you can look into Asia, you can look into these areas that still have incredibly excellent institutions and that are willing to take in international students as well, right? And another thing that we look into is financial aid, right? How does financial aid look like now? In COVID, how do we navigate applying for financial aid, or ensuring that all our documents are ready, and which institutions are we able to have these conversations with? So these are the things that we're highlighting. And another thing we're doing is we are doing the SAT practices fully for that month at all. So we understand, because our students come from 40 different countries on the continent, we have a lot of Francophone, Lusophone students who may not be strong in the English. So we are spending a lot of time ensuring that they are ready for the SAT tests that are going to be happening soon. Another thing that I would like to talk about is the opportunities that came with COVID-19. And we've been able to actually invite a lot of universities to come, and not physically come, obviously, to come virtually and present to our class, to our students. And we've had an overwhelming response. We've had about 45 universities excited to present and engage with our students, and that's been really helpful. And we can see that our students are really excited about these opportunities, because they can finally actually interact with these with the university representatives. So if it was not for, I wouldn't say if it was not for COVID, if it was in a normal setting, the university representatives would have to physically travel to South Africa. But now what we're seeing is a lot more universities are willing and able to actually conduct their presentations to students. So what I would urge to counselors is, reach out to universities. They are very excited to share the content, talk about their university, what the requirements may be. And if you reach out to them, they'll be really responsive. And another thing is updating higher education institutions on what is going on in your institution or in your school, right? So how is your school dealing with COVID-19? What this does is it provides context on when they're looking at your student's application. They're like, okay, so I already have this file that says this student this school was able to deal with COVID in this way. So it provides context when they're reading the transcripts. If the students was not able to finish the content for the year, they'll be able to have a better understanding of how your institution actually tackled or responded to COVID-19. So another thing that we're also doing, and I think I might be repeating this as well, is we're encouraging students to take part in many virtual summer programs. So YYAS, YYGS, global summer programs, internships. We're encouraging them to do campus tours, and also college information sessions. And because we do have graduated students who are still on campus, they are also taking in multiple internships around the world. So they are teaching some classes, they're leading seminars, they are taking the initiative to actually ensure that they're spending their time here productively. And another thing that we are also using, and I think maybe this is something that I would like to other counselors to do, is we're utilizing our alumni that are across the world. We are reaching out to all of our alumni saying, hey, you are at Skidmore, college. Can you share your knowledge or your experience with our current students? So what we've seen that this do is it actually provides students to that the sense of restlessness that's happening right now. It allows them to see, okay, like I can wait, I can go through this process, and if this person who went through the same system actually is in that place, then I will also be in that place as well. And then I want to talk a little bit about the parents. So obviously our parents, because they are scattered everywhere across the continent and that come from different economic background and socioeconomic status and language barriers as well, they're concerned about their children because they haven't seen them since, I think, like January. So what we've been doing is we've been doing weekly webinars for all parents. So what this means is we're not only focusing on the college application, but we're also letting them know how the students are doing academically, how they're doing emotionally and socially. So this has helped us a lot in ensuring that parents have a peace of mind in knowing that, my kid is okay and my kid is safe. So this continued webinar and this continued updates, and I think it goes back from the first presenter said, it helped a lot, and it also created a space for transparency and honest conversations, right? So if we're concerned about one student, we're not afraid to say, hey, your child may be going through this, but we are doing this to help them overcome these things. And this increased engagement with parents has alleviated some of the stress that we have to deal with as a boarding school, and ensuring that all of the students are mentally well and they're not under a lot of stress or a lot of anxiety. So we've come up with a lot of productive ways to keep them engaged on campus, have them like do running, or they do physical activity or something that like alleviates the burden of the mental burden that is COVID-19 as well. So yeah, these are some of the things that we've been doing, and I just want to talk a little bit about how the application strategy is really useful, because we want to move away from the normalcy of the normal attitude that exists towards a college application. And we want our students to perceive not only the US and Canada as higher institutions, but also broader, right? And I think that goes into understanding how the world is moving, right? And it's changing its shape, and economically it's moving towards other parts of the world. So if we're hoping to produce students who are going to be really innovative and creative and leaders and shapers of the world, we need to be able to make sure that they are literally spread across around the world. So another thing that, and this is the last thing that we are doing, is ensuring that we are using our graduate students that are on campus as a support system for our senior students. So we have established a buddy system, and then we have also established tutoring programs to support those that are about to go into the college application season. And also one more thing is we wanted to, I think the idea of patience and resilience is something that we keep coming back to, ensuring that the students are calm through this process, and understanding that even if they're graduated, we want them to understand that a gap year is an option, that there's no one formula that they need to necessarily go into, and there's no one equation for a successful life, and they are the ones who are in charge of it, and that they need to make sure that whatever path seems to be the right one or the most suitable for them, they are the ones who take those steps and those paths, and that we are there to just make sure that they we're there to support them and to guide them and have those conversations with them. And at the end of the day, they're the ones who make the decisions, and the ownership and the accountability is there for them as well. So that's what we've been doing at the African Leadership Academy. And thank you again, Ankur, for inviting me to do this. It's been great. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to have you here with us, Mashresha. Thank you so much for bringing the perspective. It was a pleasure to listen to all my panelists. I can see already a lot of my people are writing, a lot of good things about you. Excellent presentation. Pari Lalani, my friend from Kenya, wants email IDs of all of you. I will share it with you, Pari. So she says inspiring messages from all the panelists. So thank you so much to all of you for sharing your thoughts on whatever great work that you are doing in your institutions. Now moving on to my Q&A session, and we have a lot of questions. I will try to take maximum of them. I'm mindful of time. So there are about 20 minutes to go. So let me begin with the first question in the Q&A section. Give me a sec. Okay, so the first question that we have is from Varnika Agarwal. She says, and this is for Sangeetha. Sangeetha, you will have a couple of questions directed to you. Varnika says, what is the advice you are giving to students for taking SAT and IELTS exam for 2021 admissions? As right now it's not happening. What's a good time for student to take it? Any tips on that?
Okay, shall I go ahead and answer?
Yes, it's for you.
So as you see, I'm on a few chat groups with other counselors in schools, and we've been talking about the kind of IELTS that, I'm starting with the IELTS first, the ones that universities are actually recognizing. Are they recognizing the IELTS test anymore because students can't do it physically? So I would recommend that they wait. I don't think IELTS has gone, I know TOEFL went online, but I don't think IELTS has gone online as of yet. So it may be a good idea to wait. With regards to the SAT, we know lots of, the Ivy Leagues and so many universities in the US have gone SAT optional now, like the University of California, and everyone's gone SAT optional. But if there is an opportunity for a child to do SAT, I would recommend that they do it. That's my opinion. Apparently there's one in October that would be open to students here in India, but things are changing every day. What I've been telling students is, if you are looking at places that are SAT optional right now, maybe do early action for those places, right? Because you don't need the SAT. Go ahead and put in your application for November 1st and wait till to do regular decision for the others that actually need SAT. So that would be my advice.
Thank you, Sangeetha. Anybody else on the panel? Some advice on SAT and exams?
I would like to add something to it, Ankur.
Yeah, Nirmal.
Yeah. So I want to just differentiate between these universities that are going test optional. Please do remember, and I echo what Sangeetha said, that they are not test blind. So if you have given the SAT or ACT or any of these other tests, and you do have a good score, it's going to add an additional data point to your application. It might help you. Not having one will not disadvantage you, but having a good score will actually be able to help you. So there's a difference between going test blind and test optional. So keep that in mind when you're looking at, if there is a possibility, as Sangeetha mentioned, please do definitely appear for the SAT or ACT, etc.
And that is something that I didn't know. So thank you so much for letting me know that. So that will add to their application. Thank you. So Mashresha, you want to add something?
Sorry, yeah, let me just add something about the IELTS. I think for IELTS, you could also look into schools that are accepting Duolingo. Duolingo is completely online, and a lot of institutions are going towards that. So you can do it online, you get the results in 2 days. And that's very easy, but you have to see if the institution accepts it or not.
Yeah, I think that's a better option, Duolingo.
Yeah.
So next question, again coming back to you, Sangeetha, is for you. Rakesh has asked you, what are the tips that you use to calm students and parent nerves? Anything that specifically you have in mind?
Why don't you ask?
We would like to learn as well. We want to learn from you, Sangeetha.
So something that you would like to share on that?
So you know what we realized is when this lockdown happened, it was such a shocker for all of us, right? I mean, in my job, what I predominantly do is travel around the schools that we work with, and I do workshops with students and parents. That's what I've been doing. And then suddenly not to have that happen was like, oh my gosh, I mean, what am I going to do? I'm in this house on my own, and then I'm trying to, get in touch with, so it was very hard. So what I started to do was, daily webinars. I did one, believe it or not, every day I would get on at 5 o'clock and I would talk to students and parents for like 20 minutes, 25 minutes, right? Every day a different topic based on the kind of questions that they were coming up with. And, not to brag, but there were at least 200, 250 kids and parents who would come on every day. I was like, do you not have anything else to do? And they were like, really, we don't, I mean, so that's why we're here. But, what I have realized is that it's so important, my outlook on this entire thing, right? I could empathize with them and, pull them down into that whole place of, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? How are we going to manage our finances? Where are we going to look? But I've realized that, if we stay positive as counselors, if we stay hopeful, then that transfers to students and parents saying, yes, I understand the predicament you're going through, but we're going to get through it. This is temporary. It's not going to be, they're going to find a cure for this. We're going to get over this, but I need you to work now. I don't want you to wait till next year. Don't go through what kids are going through now. So start to prepare early. So I've just been pushing into their heads about how they need to start preparing early and using this time to start. So shifting the focus from that confusion to we're going to get to a place where we're going to be okay. That's what I've been doing.
Great. I'd like to add a point here, and I love the idea of
Sure.
three things.
Yeah.
Again, being calm is just one pillar of a stool, or rather, let's say, part of a stool which has three legs. And you can't just be calm without being confident and focused. And I keep telling our students that, this whole mindfulness and all of this is very important. But what gets you there is doing the right things, being confident that you're doing the right things, having that that ability to check off every day and say, my self-esteem is not in the hands of other people, but I've done a few things today and I'm proud that I was able to finish them. It could be a simple homework or an assignment. It could be volunteering or anything else. So again, three things: calm, confidence, and focus. I think just get that right and you'll be okay. And then that translates to parents. And of course, if we counselors practice it also, we'll be able to hopefully have some rub off. This is not my philosophy. It's a friend of mine who has written a beautiful book on this subject. His name is Dr. Ben Bernstein. He's based out of Oakland in California, and he guides high-strung kids in the Bay Area to become calm, confident, and focused for not just the SAT, but in general. So a big shout out to Ben, and I'll definitely send him this recording.
Thank you so much, Arjun. Thank you so much for adding to that answer. Thank you, Sangeetha, for sharing your thoughts. Coming to the next question, this is for you, Arjun. And this is from Sangeetha, who says, are students changing their preference of majors? Are you seeing this trend of COVID affecting major preferences, and any specific, any safe majors that you think students can opt for during these times?
Well, I don't know if it's related to COVID, but what we've been doing of late, and taking Mashresha's point, that staying in touch with our past students and getting our alumni to engage with current students. So having so many conversations during the lockdown was a unique opportunity. I looked at it as a gift, and we started a podcast, which is also student managed. So our current students manage the release of the podcast, they do the social media, but they also listen in to those conversations I've had with our past students. And it's just fascinating to see that it's such a widespread sort of choice of majors kids have walked through. And also they've realized that what you study in college is not necessarily what you end up doing in life. So it's very hard to generalize and say, because of COVID, you should be doing this. But in our pool of students, we've seen data science becoming a very interesting toolkit, not necessarily a major. Even if it's a psychology student or an anthropology student, has studied data science at a level which could help them complete academic research or even present at conferences. So I think figuring those things out as to what skills you need to have as upgrade, as Sangeetha was pointing out in her first slide, is critical. I don't want to add too much. I'm sure everyone else would want to speak on this subject. It's such an important subject. Go ahead.
Yeah, so my panelists, if you would like to, anybody would like to add to this? Mashresha, you are saying something? I think you're on mute.
I know, I'm muted.
Yeah.
For ALA students, because I wouldn't say that the trend has changed because of COVID. I would say that because we are a value-driven school, and Ankur, you know this, we are very mission-driven, so we always encourage students to just, as Nirmal was saying about pursuing passion, like do something that you like, right? So because of that, we have like a theme of ALA students who are usually interested in engineering. So in general, we always have students that are wanting to study engineering. But I think COVID has influenced in some aspects because we're having a lot of students who want to study public health and international relations and policy making, like that desire to kind of impact their community and actually make some sort of change is sparked by what's happening around there. Because I think there is a sense of hopelessness that's happening because things are happening to you and you can't control it. So that desire to kind of contribute has sparked that change a little bit, but I wouldn't say it's like heavily influenced because their essence of being and individuality has not changed.
Thank you so much, Mashresha. Now I have a very important question that I feel. Yeah, anybody wants to add to that answer?
So I completely agree. I think COVID cannot, you can't generalize anything because COVID has happened in terms of what major we're looking at. Then, in a school, you always have a mix of students who are interested in the STEM, a mix of students who are interested in STEAM subjects. I think another bit that has really come up is everything is now related to technology, right? So fintech, everything would need to have a technological bent into their studying curriculum. That's one thing that everybody is recognizing and students are interested in. Psychology has been has been really, really favorable, but there's a lot of multidisciplinarity approach that the students are currently having. A lot of students are also looking at going undecided in the first year and say that let's explore, let's see what we need to do and then take that decision. So yes, to generalize, to kind of say that anything specifically is being looked at, school will always have a mix of students with their own set of interests to pursue.
Thank you, Nitina. Thank you so much. I move on to the next question, which is there are more than a couple of questions on the same subject matter. I think Nirmal should be able to take this question. There's a question which says how do we help students to know what they are good at or what they are passionate about? There is one question from Namrata. She says, is there any counseling available or tools available to help students in choosing subjects after grade 10, which is either they should go for science or commerce? Right. So these are, and there are more on the same theme. So Nirmal, if you can take this up.
Sure. So yes, there are some tools available, but keep in mind that no tool can be 100% guarantee of what you'd be good at and what you should be doing in your life. So yes, the tools are available. There are many psychometric tests, aptitude tests, a strong interest inventory, the Myers-Briggs indicator. There's a whole bunch of personality tests that you can find. Just do a search online, you'll come up with hundreds of them, So, but what that gives us as counselors is a basis to start the conversation also. And it's a combination of these tests, what you're learning about the student, about factors that they might tell you, but they don't really understand about themselves, so, and then it's a lot of conversations. So usually I don't base it on one particular test. It's also my interactions with the student, with the parent, because what happens in India, if I just restrict myself to India right now, is your choice of a career is not just your choice, is it? It's your uncle and auntie and their brothers and sisters, and your neighbor who's doing engineering and is doing so well, is got a job in Google. So though I love art, I need to do IT and get into Google as well. So there's so many other people and other factors involved in making any career decision. So you need to get into a comfortable situation with the family It's not the child himself or herself who's driving this conversation. It is the whole family. As counselors, at least in India and in countries like ours, and Mashresha, I'm not sure if you face the same situation with your parents, but definitely we see that in India, it is a joint decision. So use these tools, but please remember, no tool in the world can with 100% accuracy tell you what that child is supposed to be doing. And as I mentioned earlier when I was talking, is there's um, so many uncertainties about what is going to come out in the future. What is more important for you to is make sure that the student, and as Nitina pointed out, the tech skills. I think no matter what domain you are in, no matter what you're doing, the tech skills are going to be extremely important going forward. So please make sure that you're giving those students the chance to do any other skill development that they can to face an uncertain future. Domain skills are good for once, but then in the future, they've got to be ready to unlearn and relearn and reinvent, etc., etc. They've got to be lifelong learners. And that's the values, and that value proposition is what you need as counselors to inculcate into your children. So I'll let others chime in on that, because that's my
Yeah.
personal philosophy. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Nirmal. If others would like to chime in on this, I'm happy to take a couple of minutes.
Yes, I'll just like to spend a minute on this. If it's a parent who's asking this, I completely agree as a counselor, and I'm sure the other panelists would also agree to it. Is that it's an aptitude test is only indicative, right? It will never be 100% sure. So please do not look at it in totality to say it says this. Hence, an aptitude test also changes. If you take it 1 year and you take it the same test a year later, your results might differ because your child's interest or the state of mind would have differed at that point in time. But again, I'll go back to a very important component in life, and that I strongly believe in. Try doing a SWOT analysis of your own child. As a parent, if you'll understand what your child's strengths, weaknesses, and the opportunity that threats around him or her is, in the true sense of the spirit, without trying to fulfill your aspirations to your child, can also be one for you to counselors in school, seek help from, have conversations with alumni, understand what, because what they'll study at the undergrad right now might not be remotely close to what they would pursue as a career or a passion later. So it'll keep evolving, and it's ever evolving space right now, right? So yeah, that's what I wanted to.
Ankur, I also just wanted to add really quickly, when you're looking at subjects for 11 and 12, I think it's important. Aptitude is one thing, but I'm a big fan of looking at interest also, right? So aptitude and interest in a particular set of subjects is so important. So I've had parents who come and say, she's fantastic at sciences, and I think she's going to take physics, chem, bio in 11 and 12, but somehow she loves to do art. I don't understand why she's doing that. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's where her interest is, So it's one thing if you're doing really well. So it's really hard for those kids who are good in all of it. You know what I mean? But to find that match and to balance that aptitude and interest, I think that's what we as counselors need to help students recognize, and then, suggest or recommend subjects that they can take for 11 and 12.
Thank you, Sangeetha. So now I'll take last couple of questions. One is an open question for everyone. I'll let the group decide who would like to answer this. Your thoughts on gap year? Would you recommend a gap year this year, or do you recommend students should continue with online education? And is it worth it? So that's the question that has been coming on multiple occasions in my chat box. So who would like to go ahead? Please take it up.
I just have a very quick point of view on this, and it's nothing related to COVID again. And I think a gap year is a fantastic option in general, especially for students who are, in the regular run-of-the-mill sort of environment, going to school, going for extra classes, and sort of figuring out how to shine and also apply to colleges. They've not seen life beyond that whole sort of routine. And I think there is enough research out there, and I'm sure all counselors here on the panel would agree that students who do take a gap year and do meaningful things can be better at in a collegiate setting, and they can definitely bring that maturity of experience to campus and make lives of other people really fulfilling. So yes, anyone who has the privilege to be able to do a gap year or can create one for yourself, please go ahead. It's an absolutely fantastic idea.
Thank you, Arjun. Mashresha, yeah.
I would like to add something. As a person who did take a gap year before attending college, I always encourage my students. So I think there are 3 things that I want them to highlight. One is there's no rush. There's no rush for you to go. There's no immediate rush for you to do that. And the same thing, I have the same conversation with the student and with the parent. And 2 is ultimately it's their own decision. I would never encourage a student to do something that they don't want to do, because they're going to spend 4 years or 3 years in that institution, and we want them to flourish. We want them to be successful. And third thing is to take gap year if you decide, and that's always an option. If you decide to take a gap year, it is a huge learning opportunity. And it gives you the chance to grow intellectually and understand what social, what working environment is like. I think it was Nitina who was talking about developing soft skills and encouraging them. So if you actually go into the gap year and you take that advantage and that opportunity, once you go to college, and you could, you might have to do on-campus jobs, right? And you already have the experience, so you going in there already experienced, and I've seen it really be beneficial. But ultimately, it is a conversation, and that conversation needs to be continued between the student and the parent and you. So as we keep reminding ourselves, we're always guiding and we're not prescribing. So yeah, that's what I would say.
Thank
I
you,
want to add
Mashresha.
something,
Yeah, Nirmal.
Ankur.
Yeah, Nirmal.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So one very important point that as counselors we should advise, and a gap year is not about staying home and watching Netflix. A gap year is about having a plan to do something. So it's good for people only if they are going to do something productive with that time, rather than saying, I want to apply to college again because I didn't get into my dream college, so I'm just going to stay at home and study for the SAT and do my applications again. That's not what a gap year is about. It's not about spending your time doing things as what you're not passionate about. So please, for whoever wants to take a gap year, it's a great idea, and I echo what Mashresha and Arjun have said. And there's so many students across the Western world who do take gap years. It's just not very common in India because we are so academic oriented. It's everything in steps, this, it's a sequence for us. But it's a great and wonderful idea for your development, but have a plan.
Perfect. Thank you. Yeah, Nitina, go ahead. Yeah.
So India, parents are hugely involved, right? You need to finish your education at a certain age. You need to get married at a certain age. You need to have a family at a certain age. So I don't know how gap year. So I think for us to have that conversation, you need to be truly realistic. And I agree, a plan is extremely important, a structure, a plan to say that this is how I'm going to justify my gap year if I plan to take one. So keep the child in the center, keep the student in the center of whenever you're making that decision to say, especially I'm talking from the context of being a high school counselor. So keep the student in the center and have the parent also on board to say that, yes, if you're taking that decision, I'm keeping everything in mind if I'm looking at taking this decision, and a plan. Without that, a gap year is not justified at all.
Perfect. Thank you, Nitina. So I have my final question, and this is for Mashresha and probably the panel also, if they would like to take it. This is from Rita Agarwal. It says, how can I uphold the value of equity, diversity, and inclusion among students apart from cognitive learning? What any best practices on that? Mashresha, if you would like to take that up, and then I'll open it up to the panel. You're on mute.
Sorry, Ankur, can you please repeat that?
Yeah, I'm just going to repeat that question. It talks about how can I uphold the value of equity, diversity, and inclusion among my students apart from cognitive learning skills? Any best practices that you have to inculcate values of equity, diversity, and inclusion in my students?
Okay, great. So, I mean, my campus is really diverse because we have so many students from about 40 countries. So we are, I would say, having honest conversations and creating it around different activities that students find engaging has been really helpful for us as an institution. So, for example, we have days of celebration, we have days of conversation and some uncomfortable dialogue. So understanding that we're not living in a world of like kumbaya, right? Having those honest conversations and having those uncomfortable dialogues that you may have from a different person with a different background, with a different color. So encouraging that. And I think essentially what ALA does really well is we have this, we are mission driven. So we are all working towards something. And I think when people have the same goal that they're working towards, it makes it really easy to address the differences and accept diversity and accept differences, right? So if you're working towards the betterment of the continent, which is our mission, to build entrepreneurs and leaders and innovators and creators, that means our students are with us in that conversation, and it allows us to have those uncomfortable conversations and dialogues. And this is it's a bit weird, but we find food to be the best way to have this conversation of diversity, as long as, you know, when we have our North African students cultural exchange, bring their food, their culture, what they wear to the on campus, and then we have our West African students do the same thing, our East African students do the same thing. It brings people together, and it truly shows that we are all human, right? And I think that's what we focus on as an institution, is embracing our diversity and allowing us to flourish in our differences. So,
thank you, Mashresha. So anybody else on the panel would like to have some comments on this?
Yeah, I just wanted to add, you know, from my experience in being in a school setting, which I miss very dearly every single day, sometimes what I've seen is that the common tendency, right, we focus on the top like 5%, 10% in a particular graduating class, you know, the ones that are in the student council and captain of the football team and, you know, all of those. But what I have recognized or what I've seen is that it's so important when a child is graduating or when they're in there to celebrate each child for who they are and what they are strong in. It could be something really small that they do, but they do it well, and you highlight that. So as a counselor, as you know, a school community, you're like, yeah, maybe you're not in the top 10%, but that's okay. You're fantastic in this. So then they go out feeling hopeful that they are strong in something. And I think that's so important that we recognize everyone in the class. Not everyone's good at everything, but that's okay. And for kids to know that it's okay that you're different from your friend, but someone recognizes it. And I think it's important to celebrate each child when they graduate.
I think Sangeetha, you made a point there, especially in India, where even after getting 95%, students feel that they are not achieving anything in life. You know, I get those interviews in OP Jindal where a student, when we talk them, we got 95, you should be happy. No, sir, I'm not happy. The cutoffs are 98. What will happen? I will not be able to get out into my favorite course at the favorite college that I have. So yeah, that's a webinar for some time else. I think probably I could go on with those experiences that we have, and you know, how do we handle those cases, and so probably next time around we'll have another discussion on that and how we can, you know, tackle and best practices to handle those cases. But thank you so much, my panelists. We went about 10 minutes over time, but it didn't feel like. My gratitude to all of you for taking time out for us. It's been a wonderful discussion. Thank you, each one of you. You brought in your own context for this conversation, and the audience have a lot of good messages for you. The theme is thank you so much. Thank you so much to our audience also for being with us for the last 90 plus 100 minutes now, and being a part of this conversation. We'll be back next week again with another set of panels. So see you then. Take care, stay safe, stay well. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.